You've got the flexibility of pressing and holding that way if you wanted to. You've also got the option of using the key fob. So on the outside of the fob there, you can press and hold either one of those. So open up the driver or the passenger side, and then just go old school, button press in order to open up instead. But the seat, so this thing has the VIP seat, and these things are incredibly comfortable, but the downside is that they can't be folded flat. So you'd have to look at the lower trims in order to get a flat fold. Otherwise, the most it goes is about 60%. But you've got a few levers on the outside there, so you can pull this one if you wanted to slide the seat forwards or backwards. But there's also a limit, because you can also go side to side with them too, which is pretty wild. So if you wanted the max space for the second row, you've got that flexibility. But look at this. So ridiculous. Okay, hold on. There's a reason why the seats are set up this way, but before I show you that, along the door there, so on the outside, you've got a button that you can push in order to shut the door, or you can just grab the handle and touch in order to be able to close it that way instead. And then along the door, you can see there, heated and ventilated second row seats. That's not going to be standard across the entire vehicle lineup, but it is great to know that it's there. So if you're the type of person where you prefer a little bit more luxury, you do have that flexibility, which I love it. And the heated second row seats, heated ventilated, are strictly going to be the outboard seats. So you've got a few different configuration options that are available, so 7 or 8 seats. The 7-seat configuration is going to be standard in some trims, optional in others. 8-seat is the same thing. But these VIP seats are going to be exclusive to the SX trim level. And there's one thing that makes them very, very unique. I'll touch on that in a second. One other thing about the door, that you do have some sunshades there. And that's the same for the driver, passenger side, and the second, and in the third row, which is great. But yeah, it's basic styling there. You've got a little bottle holder, and then these seats. Okay, so see there? It's almost like movie theater-esque, because you've got a boatload of different controls all throughout the seat there. So you've got a few options. If you wanted to be able to recline this thing, so you can like fully recline it, which is wild. But the crazier part is that there's also this lever there. So this tab, you can also lift it up, and hold on. So this is, so downside of these, I'm going to lift it up just to show you. I've got the driver's seat set up for myself being 6 feet tall, and unfortunately, there is 0% chance I'm comfortably being able to sit inside of the seat when it's fully reclined like this. And it's as far back as it's going to go. But I mean, damn, is that comfortable? It is super comfortable. Okay, there we go. Okay, yeah. So with the seat, or the leg cushions not as far down, it's definitely doable for me, but otherwise, I wouldn't want to sit in the seat this way. But I mean, really? It's pretty cool that this is available, because if you're going on distance trips or people need to take a quick nap, whatever the case may be, it's pretty useful that that's available. But I mean, there are so many different levers along the side to really customize the second row seats in these VIP seats to make it more unique to you. And then I mentioned, so along the side there, you can also slide the seat side to side with limitations because of how far back I am. So you'd have to pull here first, slide yourself a little bit more realistic. There we go. And then, like I mentioned, this one, if you wanted to slide yourself out to the side. And that's useful for an easier pass-through to the third row. But with the driver's seat set up for myself being 6 feet tall, inside of the second row, I've got a good amount of knee space, great amount of foot space. And up overhead, sitting fully upright, it is tight. Like I'm probably looking at maybe ½ an inch of head space. So if I wanted to comfortably sit in this seat, I'm going to have to recline a little bit in order to make it a teeny bit more comfortable. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, even doing like that, like putting it back a little bit, gives me like 3 or 4 extra inches of head space. So taller people, you're going to definitely be able to fit inside of the second row here. But like I mentioned, these VIP seats strictly available in the SX trim level. It is really, really nice. And the armrest capabilities there, solid. Now, this thing doesn't have any TVs or anything like that set up, but I mean, you could just drop some iPads behind both the seats there if you wanted to have more of like a movie-going experience instead. You're going to find some pockets behind both the driver passenger side, and not only are they basic pockets, but they've also got some mesh inside of them as well. along the passenger side seat. You've also got a power point, and that's the same on the driver's side seat there too. But you'll also notice this seat has a few extra buttons in order to be able to move the seat forwards, backwards, and then recline as well. So very different than what you might be used to. But there is so much in the side of the second row. You've got some cup holders there, a 100-watt wall outlet, a 12-volt power point, and there's a little storage tray down below there as well. Shooting up overhead, you've got a handle, hook, and then basic vent control for the second row. You've also got some light controls back there. And then you've also got this. So sunroof there that you can open up from this side. You can push there, or you can also vent out. The car is only in accessory mode right now though, but you saw that earlier. You've also got basic controls for your climate for the second row. So you can adjust what's going on with your fan speed. You can make it hotter or colder. You can turn it off. Do you want it going face or feet? Or do you want to have it in an auto mode instead? So very useful. If people are fighting, you've got the flexibility of being able to lock this out if you want to. And then up overhead from here, you've got a little camera there. And that camera is useful because it essentially gives you like a nice bird eye view of what's going on in the second row. As I mentioned, 7 or 8 seat configuration. So if you've got the bench configuration, so the 3 seats in the middle here instead, you'd be able to get to that third row a little bit easier on the outside. And that's just because the seat is going to move forward. But with the dual captain's chair set up, it's also doable. Not quite as easy, but you can kind of shuffle through. And with the VIP seats, you're going to want to make sure they're shot all the way out to the side instead, because if they're in the middle, it's going to be really, really tough to be able to get to that third row. So let's do a little shimmy. So not impossible to get inside of the third row of this thing by using the dual captain's chair setup. But in the third row, just wait, with me sitting fully upright, my head is touching. Like I have less than 0 head space there because I'm kind of curving my head in order to be able to sit up straight. So if you're taller, you're not fitting in the third row of the Carnival. So I'd say anything over 6 feet, you're going to like fight people so you can sit in the second or the first row instead. But one nice thing is that there are tether points and anchor points as well. So you've got your anchors there, tethers in behind the seats. So if you've got kid seats, you do have the flexibility of setting it up inside of the third row instead if you wanted to. But the seats in the third row are actually surprisingly comfy for the outboard seats. There is a middle seat here though. And the middle seat is not comfy. The only thing that I find comfortable about the middle seat with the 7-seat configuration is that just kind of like kick my legs out and relax. Nice. But in the third row, there are actually a few things back here to point out. So one thing, you've got sunshades on both the driver passenger side there. You can see there's a speaker, there's a light up overhead, vent control, and then there's also a USB power point with a few cup holders. And that's the same thing for the driver's side too. So you've got some cup holders there, USB power point, speaker, light, and then there's also that control for the climate. That's nice. Super rare to see third row sunshades, but I mean, if you've got your kids in the third row, it's really useful. Seat there is great. The tether point is located just underneath the seat there, and that's the same for the outboard seats. But getting out of the third row, like I said, this configuration, infinitely easier. I just love those VIP seats. That's really neat. Ugh. But overall, like I'm going to say the second row space, second row seats inside of the Carnival, they're good. They're really good.